At my expense, my neglectful dad and his scheming stepmom conspired to hijack the home I'd spent years paying off, all to pamper my spoiled pregnant stepsister, until unexpected karma struck them both down in the most satisfying, unforgiving way possible, leaving them scrambling for excuses while I finally got the last laugh. Lately, I've been realizing just how self-centered my dad, 62, really is. It's been a tough lesson. I'm 34, and I've recently been forced out of my own home, all in the name of family. My stepsister, Ash, 29, somehow never does anything wrong in his eyes. She just found out she's pregnant and can't find a place to live. Her big ambitions? Being an escort and running an OnlyFans. Now, my dad wants me to step in and fix everything because I'm the fixer, apparently. So I had to give up my home and hard-earned money for someone who's made all the wrong choices. He's brushed me off as an afterthought for years, especially after he found out I moved into a modest place and have a pretty low-paying job. But suddenly, he cares about blood ties again. It's exhausting how he keeps trying to lecture me on who my real family is. He wants me to build a stronger bond with his wife and her daughter, Ash, who's technically my half-sister. But I was sent away too young to ever feel connected to them. And honestly, I'm glad I wasn't, because I would have been seriously disappointed. Before anyone says anything, I'm just here to share what I feel. These are my thoughts, my opinions, and even if you disagree or don't like them, it doesn't change that this is my truth. I don't really have anyone else to talk to about this. Let me introduce my half-sister Ashlyn, Ash for short. She's about 5 years younger than me, and in my dad's eyes, she can do no wrong. He actually calls her his pride and joy, even though she's openly working as an escort and posts suggestive content online. Yes, you heard that right. I guess my dad has no idea what that even means, or just chooses to ignore it. I'm not a prude, but I try to hold on to my morals and focus on my career. When I date, I take it seriously. There's sometimes a spark, but there are usually other issues, distance, schedules, or just plain incompatibility. I don't do one-night stands, and I'm not impressed by people who brag about high body counts like it's some kind of trophy. Ash, on the other hand, clearly doesn't count anymore. She's deep into that lifestyle, and to be honest, I find it gross and dangerous. Some men are into some really weird stuff, and I don't get how that's a respectable job in her eyes. She even shares explicit photos and videos online, trying to make money off it, but she doesn't seem to be doing well. I don't think she even knows how to attract traffic to her page. And how do I know all this? Well, it's awkward. A friend of mine told me Ash messaged him after they had drinks once, asking if he wanted to have some fun. I was already a little suspicious when he left with her, but he only realized she was my sister later. He told me she even emailed him her page link, and yeah, I saw it too. I don't know if he's lying, but she's always broke and constantly begging dad for cash, so it all kind of adds up. I've never told dad, and I couldn't even confront her directly. I've seen her take weird calls, sneak into cars with older guys, and even sneak back into the house through windows late at night. This all became clear when I came home from college during the holidays. Whether she's still doing it or not, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm proud of the stable job I have now. I've worked hard. I haven't spent much time living with my new family since dad always found reasons to ship me away. But I've seen enough of Ash to say she takes after her mom, Marissa, 58. Back in the day, Marissa thought she was some kind of beauty icon. She was a flight attendant and clearly knew how to charm men like my dad. Now, she looks plastic with those long claw nails and overdone makeup. Ironically, she runs a neighborhood daycare. I honestly don't get how anyone trusts her with their kids. Her nails alone could poke a child's eye out. She's nosy, always has an opinion, and causes drama wherever she goes. She's basically made of plastic at this point and has a voice that could shatter glass. She's never accepted me and never wanted to raise a kid that wasn't hers, which is probably a big reason my dad didn't hesitate to send me to boarding school when I was 8. Now let's talk about my dad. He's the root of all this. He thinks everything he does is justified just because he's lived longer. He's always acted like having me was some kind of burden just because I'm not like him. Thank God I'm not. My mom was strong and had her priorities straight. She took care of him, even though they clashed a lot. I'll never forget her telling me that my dad wasn't evil, just different. She never tried to turn me against him, even though he made her life hard. They divorced when I was 4. Just 2 months later, he married Marissa. I was 5 when they had Ash. My mom passed away in a car crash when she was coming to pick me up from school. She was never late, just that one day. She was only 10 minutes behind, but it felt like an eternity. A drunk driver hit her at an intersection. He lived, and she didn't. That day haunts me. I sat at school for 2 hours until someone showed up. My dad finally came, looking irritated, and asked Marissa what they should do with me. Her reply, "Your kid, your problem." I'll never forget that. Since I was 15, I've been working. I went from boarding school to college and only came home for holidays. I've lived on my own for the last 8 years. Recently, I bought my first home, a small, cozy place that means the world to me. Way better than the apartment I share with roommates. I honestly didn't think I'd ever reach this goal. I just moved in last month, and even though I don't love my family, I invited them to the housewarming out of basic respect. My dad's reaction? Pretty depressing. He seemed jealous, asking about the furniture, the design, and even who decorated it. When I answered, he acted passive-aggressive, throwing in snide comments like, "Wouldn't know. You never tell me anything," in front of my friends, my boss, and everyone else. He wanted to look like the victim. A week later, he called and said he needed to talk urgently. I was swamped at work with a major project, but I agreed to meet because he made it sound important. When I got home, Marissa and Ash, whose eyes were red and puffy, were glaring at me from the living room, so I kept my distance. Her dad was in the kitchen pulling beers from the fridge. He offered me one, but I politely declined, unsure what he'd say when I asked what he wanted from me. He furrowed his brow and dodged my question, instead asking if I'd been complaining about us lately. Confused, I frowned. He told me to come hang out in the living room with Ash and Marissa. I nodded and sat on the couch across from them. Ash crossed her arms. Marissa rolled her eyes. Her dad sat with them, placing his beer on the coffee table, leaning back. Then he asked if I was blind. There was a pause, me confused, then furious. Before I could answer, he said I must either be blind or willfully ignoring the obvious. He claimed I'd gotten too proud since buying property and now refused to acknowledge the people who actually mattered. I sighed and asked what he meant, hoping he'd be clearer. He scoffed and said I wasn't disturbed by what was happening right in front of me, that I'd chosen to look away, not help, and ignore that this family was in danger. Naturally, I asked what danger he was talking about. I glanced at Ash. She rolled her eyes and blurted out that she was pregnant. I wanted to congratulate her, like any normal person, but she broke down crying before I could say a word. Marissa hugged her and told me I should care enough to actually notice what was going on at home. Her dad explained that Ash had just found out she was pregnant, and the guy responsible had already left her. Marissa added that Ash planned to keep the baby, so now, the question was whether she could even afford to. That's when they looked at me. Just stared. I wanted to help. I really did, but in my head, I was already preparing for the part where they expected money. Her dad got up and came to sit next to me. "That's why he called me over," he said. Then he added, maybe my mom hadn't taught me what it meant to be a good brother, but real brothers would give anything for their sisters. He said he'd always been a good father to his daughter. I told him, "Excuse me, but I'm not giving my life away for her." Still, I knew what he meant. He wanted money. I sighed and asked what he wanted me to do. He smiled, said, "That's my good boy," and rubbed my back. I forced a fake smile. Then he said the words that made it vanish. "You're giving Ash your house." "No, I'm not," I replied. He stared hard at me and said that's exactly what he meant. I told him I could help with some cash, but the house was mine. If Ash needed a place, she could stay rent-free in one of the rooms. Her dad stood up and said, "That's nonsense." I told him it made perfect sense, but he insisted I shouldn't just let her live there. I should move out and buy myself a different place. I argued that Ash didn't have a job, and being pregnant, she couldn't afford to manage the home or the bills. He said those responsibilities were mine now. Apologize? Hell no. I was pissed, but I kept it polite. I stood and told him this wasn't going to happen and that I was leaving. But he wasn't done. 1 week later, he showed up at my place while I was at work. I don't know how he got inside or where he found a key, but when I got home, movers were hauling boxes, my stuff, out of the house. I rushed over, asking what they were doing, and they said the owner told them to get the stuff out. I told them to stop immediately, that I was the owner, and to put everything back inside. I was furious. This was the last thing I expected to come home to. Inside, I found Dad and Ash still there, insisting this was what family does. I told them to leave, or I'd call the cops. They finally left, but not without cursing me out on the way out. I know this is a lot, and honestly, it was worse living through it. A week's gone by, and I'm posting this because I'm still torn. Was I wrong? I feel guilty for cutting them off like that, but I also know I have limits. Growing up, they never showed much care for me. Now, I'm expected to give up everything for them? It's a lot. I haven't even told my friends. I feel like I only have you guys to talk to. Update. Hey everyone. I hope you're all doing okay. I posted this last week, and I didn't expect it to blow up. Some of the comments made me question a few things. Not long after, I decided not to completely cut off my family. Ash called me. I let her talk. She said she wanted to meet and explain a few things. I didn't feel right inviting her back to my place, so I suggested a neutral spot. At the coffee shop, she seemed a little off. She's usually pretty sharp and defensive. She admitted her relationship didn't end the way Dad thought. He believed the guy bailed because he didn't want to commit. But according to Ash, she was the one with commitment issues. Crazy, right? She said she loved him, but just days before she told him she was pregnant, he found out some stuff about her. She said something first that set him off. He freaked out, punched a hole in the wall, and told her he was divorcing her. Then he just left. She's been trying to call him since, but he barely responds. The only message he sent said she needs to get rid of the baby first. Only then will he talk to her. I know Ash isn't perfect, but that guy, something about him doesn't sit right. She said it felt weird opening up to a brother about all this. I told her she didn't have to tell me if she didn't want to. I started to realize she was probably talking about OnlyFans and escorting. She took a deep breath and let it out before I could ask why she wanted to meet. Then she told me she'd been involved in some questionable things. Even though I wanted her to confirm all my suspicions, I was still worried. She said she once dreamed of being a painter and an artist, but Marissa told her that wouldn't lead to a decent life or income. Marissa pushed her to start finding a man immediately. At first, she was grossed out, especially when older men started paying attention to her. But Marissa told her that was a good thing. Older men have money and know how to spend it. At the time, Ash was just 19. Marissa also told her that college wouldn't give her a pleasant life, and that Ash's youth was something many would pay for. Ash decided she wanted to model. She tried several modeling agencies, but none were interested. Then she met a man in his 40s who said he could get her work. He bought her expensive clothes and jewelry and took her to events. She was happy until her first job came up. That's when she realized she was basically selling her time to a man just to cover the cost of a modeling contract. She went to dinner that night thinking it would be just that, but it wasn't. She did land a small modeling contract, posing for a local brand. But a few more men took advantage of her while she was still hoping for legit work. Eventually, she found out the man who was investing in her was actually profiting off her. She was scared he might hurt her if she confronted him. So she played it smart and told him she was okay with low pay and didn't want to model anymore. Luckily, he let her go without any issues. After that, she tried waiting tables in bars, which turned out to be tough. She earned every dollar. Still, she said Marissa mocked her for doing small jobs. Marissa always said women were supposed to be taken care of, that they were the beauty of the world, just meant to shine and smile like a trophy. So Ash started going on dates just to get dinner, but she charged for it. She said while some men were just lonely and wanted company, too many got obsessive and acted like they were owed more. That's when she realized escorting actually caused fewer problems than just talking to men. It worked for a while, until a friend told her about OnlyFans. She gave a shot, but her filming and editing skills weren't great. She also wasn't social enough to make it work. It's more effort than people think. Then she ran into her current boyfriend, an old coworker. He still worked as a barista and showed up often. She liked him, even though he was clingy and didn't trust her, probably because she was still escorting and using OnlyFans without telling him. In a way, he had every reason to be suspicious. When she finally quit escorting and left OnlyFans, he started supporting her with what little she made, and things seemed okay. But Marissa wasn't happy. Then Ash got pregnant, and her boyfriend found out everything. She admitted that a few of the men could be the father. They all chipped in to help her and the baby, and one even proposed to her. The twist. Each man thinks he's the only one. She doesn't tell them otherwise and uses the money to help raise the child. She said she opened up to me because she couldn't tell Dad. He still thinks she's been doing the occasional modeling job, and that she had just one man who left her. Marissa, strangely, seems to understand, and even told Ash to marry the guy who proposed and let him believe he's the dad. But Ash doesn't want that. She doesn't want to lie, and she doesn't want to marry a guy she finds weird and too old. She said financial support would help, and she asked me to make peace with Dad. I asked her what she needed help with, and she told me to just agree with what Dad wants and then take some time away. After that, she said I could return once things cooled off. I didn't see how that solved anything. I turned her down gently and told her I could give her a little money, but I wasn't okay with leaving my own place. She got mad and said I didn't even have the decency to help her out. She said she had just shared her whole life with me, and I was being selfish. Then she claimed Dad had always been right about me and that I should have been put in an orphanage instead of taken in. She stormed off. Still, I don't think I was too harsh, was I? Is it really selfish? What do you think her story says about her expectations? Should I trust what she told me? She seemed honest, but does that mean I should take her advice? That's what's been weighing on my mind. A few more things happened a week later, so I figured I'd sit down and tell you all about it. Thanks for backing me up before. It felt good to be supported for once. Anyway, Dad called me after I saw Ash. He wanted to meet at a pub and talk. I was curious, so I went. While we sat at the counter, he said he knew how much I was making. I asked why that mattered, and he said I could afford to buy another house in a few years. I told him I already had one, so what was the point? He said I didn't have a family yet, and that raising a child alone is harder for a single woman. He said a kid needs a stable home. I reminded him Ash had been living with them this whole time without issues. One more child wouldn't make a difference. I also asked what she'd do, pregnant and living alone in a big house. She needed people around her. Then Dad said something that stopped me cold. He and Marissa wanted to move in with Ash into my house. Before I could say anything, the bartender laughed under his breath. Dad got defensive and asked what was so funny. The bartender replied, Ash, she uses everyone and throws them away. Then he looked straight at us and said he was her boyfriend. That's when it clicked for me. My eyes widened. Dad clenched his fists and asked the guy why he thought it was okay to start a family he couldn't support. The man held up his hands and said he wasn't involved in the family at all and didn't want to be. He admitted he'd had a vasectomy the year before, so he couldn't have gotten Ash pregnant. That's when he realized she had lied to him, and he caught her driving off with other men. Then he found her OnlyFans. That was the final straw. When Ash told him she was pregnant, he knew the baby couldn't be his. She finally confessed everything to him. And while I was still taking it all in, all I could hear was my dad's voice growing louder. All I could see was his face, shifting from anger to disbelief, then finally to disappointment. He just shrugged and said, "Showed Ash. Cash. Money. Time. Honesty. At least love. That's all he owed. Nothing else." He said he didn't even know if Dad was aware of everything, but he knew no father would be proud of a child like that. Dad pressed his lips together, quietly got off the stool, and walked away. He texted me later that evening, saying he had to pick up Marissa from yoga. I don't know what happened after that exactly, but something definitely did, because Ash was at my door the very next day, sobbing. "I ruined everything," she said, trying not to cause a scene. I pulled her inside, tried to calm her down. I told her I hadn't said a word to Dad. It was her boyfriend, the bartender, who spilled it when Dad and I went out. Then she told me Dad had told her to stop everything and stay home. He said he never thought she'd go that far, and he was disgusted. He told her to find a decent man and change her ways. He even said that with the way things were going, decent men might not be interested anymore. I hugged her and listened. Dad had just come back from visiting me when he confronted her, so she thought I had told him everything. I forgave her. She went home. She added that Marissa had been strangely quiet when Dad started talking about loyal women. Like she didn't have anything to say, even though she was clearly upset. Ash said it's one of those topics Marissa won't talk about. When I asked why, Ash said, because she's yoga. I didn't get it. I just grimaced in confusion before Ash kept crying and told me what else had happened. That yoga line stuck with me. What do you think really happened? Will Ash still be the apple of Dad's eye? No one's reached out to me since. But I'll wait, and I'll let you know. I bet you didn't expect me to follow up this quickly, but I just had to. Update, 2 days since my last post. For those wondering, Ash's ex's name doesn't really matter, but let's call him Bob. I saw Dad the day before yesterday. I told him I'd made some decisions. I said I was ready to let Ash stay in one of the rooms, and I'd help raise her baby. I'd cover diapers and supplies, but she needed to start working. Dad told me no one else would be able to watch the kid, so I told her to try working from home or freelancing. This time, Dad wasn't his usual bitter self. He sat down, sighed, and said it felt like I hated him. He was right, but I asked him why he thought that. He said Mom hated him too. That's why she never said it. I told him she never had to. She always said he loved me, always worried about me. The reason I was so hurt was because the version of him I believed in didn't match reality. Mom told me everything, but from him, I got nothing but silence. He rubbed his eyes and admitted he hated himself in many ways. He said he liked Mom, but they didn't know each other well enough to know if they were right. They got married because he got her pregnant. There was never that spark. He said she was a good wife. Then, he met Marissa. I froze. I didn't know any of this. Dad said Marissa made him feel things he didn't know he could. He caught feelings fast, and before they could even sort it out, she got pregnant. He told her to wait. He wanted to tell Mom first. But Marissa got nervous and showed up at our house and told Mom everything. Mom confronted Dad. She was hurt, but composed. She asked for a divorce. So yes, my parents split because my dad had an affair and got my stepmom pregnant. Dad told me he spent about a year with Marissa after the split. But when Mom died, he said he had to bring me back. Marissa hated it. She worried Dad would favor me over their child. 3 years later, I was sent to boarding school. I never stayed home long enough to bother Marissa. Love makes you do stupid things, he said. I wanted to punch him right then, but I didn't. I turned around, and there was Marissa standing in the doorway with a water bottle, saying she was heading to yoga. She dropped the bottle off and walked into the kitchen. I blinked, and she was already out the door again. Something about it just fell off. So I followed her. I drove quietly behind her to a yoga studio. She pulled into the lot, looked around, and then got into another car. She kissed the driver. They drove off together. I was stunned. My jaw clenched. I walked in the yoga studio and asked if Marissa had checked in. They wouldn't give me info, but I told them I was worried about her. They said no one by that name was registered there. I went back to my car and waited. I don't know what came over me, but I filmed the moment that second car came back. She hopped out, laughing, and the guy smacked her, but before opening her door and kissing her. Yoga, huh? Right. I left before she noticed me. My dad cheated on my mom, and now he's being cheated on. Karma. Dad's called me several times, but I haven't answered. All I want is to confront Marissa. So that's what I'm going to do. Final update, probably. I know I'm a week late. You expected this sooner. A lot happened. I finally got the guts to confront Marissa. I waited until Ash was asleep and Dad was out. I asked if she had yoga that day. She said she did. It's every day, even Sundays. She was making spaghetti in the kitchen. Who's your yoga teacher? I asked. She made up a name. Is it a guy? I pressed. She laughed. No, it's a woman. Why would I pick a guy? I told her that was strange. None of the other studios have female instructors. Her tone shifted. She stopped stirring the sauce. They said I joined yesterday? She asked. I nodded. How would you know which studio I go to? She asked. I followed you last time, I said. She dropped the spoon. I picked it up. She turned to face me. What are you getting at? She asked. I told her what I saw. She denied it. Of course she did. I saw it with my own eyes, I said, and showed her the footage. She stood there, frozen. Then she relaxed and went back to cooking. It doesn't matter, she said. I'm already preparing for a divorce. My eyes widened. This woman was something else. Dad might deserve it, but she's cold. She told me the guy from the car was her old flame from 3 years ago. They'd been in love, but he was married and worked for his wife's dad. So they stayed apart. When he became single again, they reconnected. Marissa got pregnant and decided to stay with Dad. She wanted stability, but her boyfriend backed out when she told him. That's when she ran to Mom. Now, her boyfriend is a widower with his own business. She said, women do what they have to do. Then she smiled, until she saw Dad behind me. He stood there, fist clenched, face burning. He woke Ash and brought her into the kitchen. Who's her father? He asked. Ash shook her head and looked at Marissa. You're my dad, she told him. That's always been true. Dad ran a hand through his hair, pacing. 2 days later, he made them both leave. The divorce is in progress. Marissa and Ash are staying at a shelter. Dad asked me to help him find a therapist. He's been quiet ever since. I forgave him again. As for Marissa, her boyfriend says he's never even spoken to her. She begged me not to show the footage. Begged me to think of Ash's future. But what can I say? Your child, your responsibility. Should I destroy the footage or release it? I didn't know what to do after that. I sat in my room, watching the video over and over again, trying to figure out what was right. Part of me wanted to just delete it and walk away, to let them all deal with their mess. But the other part of me, the part that remembered everything my mom went through, said no, don't protect the people who never protected you. Marissa texted me the next morning. Please, she wrote. For Ash. She doesn't need this on top of everything else. I didn't respond. She called twice, left voicemails, crying and apologizing, saying she messed up, saying she didn't know what else to do, that Dad had changed after Mom died and she felt alone. Maybe that's true. Maybe she was scared. But scared people don't lie for 3 years and sneak around while pretending to go to yoga. What broke me wasn't her cheating. It was her pretending to be some perfect wife, making Dad feel like he was finally enough. She took his guilt and wore it like armor. He hurt Mom, and Marissa made sure he never forgot it, but not because she cared, because it gave her control. And Ash, she's caught in the middle of all of this. She didn't ask for any of it. I met up with her at a cafe near the shelter. She looked tired, worn out in a way I hadn't seen before. Her eyes were puffy, like she hadn't slept in days. She hugged me, and I hugged her back. You're not going to show that video, right? She asked quietly. I didn't say anything at first. I just looked at her, and maybe it was cruel, but I needed her to sit with that silence. Finally, I said, what do you think would have happened if the roles were reversed? If Dad had caught you doing the exact same thing? She looked down. He would have kicked me out too. Exactly. But you told me he was trying to do better, she said. That he was seeing a therapist trying to change. He is. But change doesn't erase everything. It doesn't excuse everything. Just like your mom's pain doesn't make her innocent now. Ash wiped her eyes and nodded. I just don't want to lose everything. I told her she wouldn't. Not everything. That if she really wanted to, she could still build something new. But it wouldn't start with covering up more lies. Later that night, I showed the footage to Dad. He didn't say a word while he watched it. He sat on the couch, hunched forward, elbows on his knees, staring at my phone like he'd already known it, but needed to see it to believe it. When it ended, he handed it back to me and said, thank you. That was all. No yelling. No crying. Just quiet. I asked him if he was okay. He shook his head. Not even close. He admitted he'd suspected something for a while. Said Marissa had started hiding her phone, staying out late, picking fights about nothing. He just didn't want to believe it. He thought maybe he deserved it after what he'd done to Mom. But I don't, he said. I don't deserve this. And neither do you. I think that was the first time I saw my father as just a man, flawed, broken, trying. Not the villain in someone else's story. Just a guy who made a mistake, tried to fix it, and got burned anyway. The next day, he officially filed for divorce. Marissa tried calling again. I didn't pick up. Ash sent me a text later. Thanks. For not making things worse. I didn't answer. Because I don't know if I did. Maybe exposing the truth was the right thing. Maybe it wasn't. But I wasn't going to carry someone else's secrets anymore. Not when they hurt the people I still had left. A week later, Marissa moved out of the shelter and in with a friend. Ash got a job at a daycare and started working part-time. Dad's been seeing his therapist weekly. He's quieter, calmer. Sometimes he still looks like he's about to cry, but he holds it together. And me? I'm still figuring things out. Trying to decide what kind of person I want to be in all this. I don't hate any of them. Not even Marissa. I just can't keep pretending like nothing happened. That's the thing about truth. Once it's out, it changes everything. You can't shove it back in the dark. Ash came over a few nights ago. She brought the baby. She asked if I'd help babysit while she worked her evening shifts. I agreed. As she packed up a diaper bag to leave, she turned to me and said, "Do you think we'll be okay?" I thought about it. "Not right away," I said. "But yeah, I think so." She smiled. "You're the only one who stayed." I shrugged. Somebody had to, and that's it. That's where we are now. No perfect ending. No big revenge. Just a lot of healing to do. I don't know what the future holds for any of us, but I do know this. Telling the truth, even when it hurts, is still better than living a lie. Thanks for sticking with me through all of this. If you're still here, I appreciate you more than I can say. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and do that. And hit the bell so you don't miss the next story. Because real life, it's messier than fiction. And this was just one chapter.